The same on the women's side is 10 rows open all the way to the drum. אשרי האיש אשר לא הלך בעצת רשעים ובדרך חטאים לא עמד ובמושב לעצים לא ישב כי בתורת אדוני חפצו ובתורתו יגע יומם ולילה והיה כעץ שתול על פלגי מים אשר פריו ייתן בעתו ועליהו לא ייבול וכל אשר יעשה יצליח לא כן הרשעים כי אם כמוץ אשר תדפן רוח על כן לא יגענו רשעים במשפט וחטאים בעדת צדיקים כי יודע אדוני דרך צדיקים ודרך רשעים תאבד. מזמור לדוד אדוני רואי לו אחסר בנודש ירביצני על מי מנוחות ינהלני נפשי שובב ינחני במעלה צדק למען שמו גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות לא עיר הרע כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשעתך המה ינחמוני, תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי, דשנת בשמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה, אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. I never met anyone like Barry Robinson. I never had a friend like Barry, a colleague like Barry, and I'm not sure that I'll ever meet, befriend, or work with anyone like him ever again. Because Barry Robinson, our Baruch Nathaniel Ben Avram, was an exceptional and unique human being. He was a computer programmer, but he also taught one of the best Daf Yomi shiurim in the city. He was a man with a prodigious intellect that placed him head and shoulders above so many others. But his humility and his warmth drew people in, and his sweet and delightful sense of humor could make anyone laugh. He was about Koreh and about Tefillah of exceptional talent, first at Rabbi Rosenthal's shul, and most recently here in this very room, where his prayers and his nigunim on Yom Kippur not only rose up to the heavens, but took us there as well. And he was a man who midlife made a switch. And so about 20 years ago, on a Shabbos, at Kiddush, in that room back there, he agreed to teach part-time at the academy. Barry had only one condition, that I didn't tell Susie. But I'm pretty sure she found out, because ever since then, his considerable talents, the nigunim of his teaching, carried his students upward, whether those in the top Gemara class at the academy, those in AP Calculus, or any of the classes he taught. His ability and his personality carried them upward, not only into the intricacies of learning, but into life itself, as he became their mentor, their guide, their Rabbi, and in so many ways, their inspiration. Barry Robinson was a true Ish Eshkoliot, a Renaissance man, who went to Telz Yeshiva in Cleveland and to the Academy. A man who was an adjunct at Northwestern University and whose reputation for learning was so respected that he received smicha from Rav Gedalia Dov Schwartz without ever having to take a bechina. He was truly one of a kind, a man who, when he started walking with a cane, learned how to give it a twirl like Chaplin, but who could also explain a complicated kitzos with ease. He was the true fulfillment of the bracha that the Chafetz Chaim once gave to his own father, Abe Zal, when Abe was a little boy and the Chafetz Chaim blessed him by saying, Zol zayne gute Yid, you should be a good Jew. And Barry was that good Jew, a very good Jew. And then last night, we learned that our Kodesh Baruch Hu chose to take this very special person from his family and from all of us, to take him on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, when all of us were being judged. But no one ever expected a judgment like this. I had spoken with Barry Erev Yontif, and as always, he was so upbeat, so I didn't expect it, because Barry was a fighter. And I didn't expect it because Barry was always there. He was part of the very fabric of our community and of our lives, which may be why when I first heard the news and was driving to meet with the family, all that I could think of was a picture of Barry that used to adorn Moshe Kushnerzal's office at Moshevam. It was a picture of his klutzam, his bunk, back in the 1950s. Moshe was there, Yibod L'chaim, Normie, and Ricky were there, Barry was there, and others were as well. It was definitely pre-bar mitzvah. And in that picture, Barry was a cute little boy, somewhat roundish, if you know what I mean. And he had that great big smile. And while that picture was from so many years ago, that smile never disappeared. He still had it, and he still had those friends, and despite his recent illness, he still had that innocence. An innocence that didn't ignore realities, but that allowed him to move beyond them, to be so very upbeat, to be so beloved, to be a person who would see the best in others, who could rebuke with love, and even as Susie mentioned last night, to be Teflon. Not that he ever avoided challenge or blame, but it didn't stick to him because of that innocence. And it didn't change him, even in the past couple of years while he was sick. In Pirkei Avos, we learn of the great attributes of Aaron HaKohen. And the final two were that Aaron was Ohevet HaBriot, a person who loved others, Umikarvan Torah, and he brought them closer to Torah. Ohevet HaBriot, that was Barry. He loved people, all people, of all ages and all backgrounds. I still remember some of the stories he told us about some of his foreign graduate students who didn't always get it, but he tried to help them anyways. And I saw how he interacted with children, with my own grandchildren, and especially with his grandchildren, and how he interacted with teenagers and with adults. I never heard a mean word. I never saw him angry. Disappointed at times, yes, but not angry. He truly was Ohevet Habriot. And that warmth and that love was infectious. And as a result, people wanted to be with him. Students would fight to be in his shir, and adults would just want to sit at the table with him and be around him. And when they were, Barry, without any effort, served as the ultimate role model of the beauty and the simcha, the joy of a Torah life, bringing everyone closer to Jewish living without saying a single word. I still remember visiting the Beis Medrash of a yeshiva in Israel, seeing one of our former students who proudly walked me over to his table in the Beis Medrash and showed me the picture, his picture of Rabbi Robinson that was standing right there at his table while he learned. That's the kind of impact that he had. But even more, Barry succeeded, as Rabbi Yisrael Meir Lau explained about Aharon, to be a person who brought others to the richness of Torah, Mikarvan la Torah, without ever compromising on Torah, never thinking to be Mikarevet Torah Labriot. About Torah, we say Deracha Derchei Noam. Its ways are truly pleasant. And about Barry, we also say Derachav Derchei Noam. His ways were pleasant as well. And that's why this moment is so difficult. And that's why, for his family, Baruch's passing is so unfathomable, because he was Susie's beloved partner for 51 years. She, the eternal realist, and he, the eternal optimist. Together, they were the perfect odd couple who shared in each other's dreams, regaled in the smachot of life, and created an exceptional family that is cherished around the world, in Chicago, in Israel, in New York. And for their children, Renan and Mimi and Neil Zal, Aliza and Kobe, Yaakov and Atara, Yoshua and Danielle, and all of their children. Barry was a constant. He was their constant. He taught them, sometimes dozing off during those lessons, as he would do during almost every one of my drushos. But he taught them. He taught them the values that he had learned from his parents. And most importantly, he taught them that he would always be there for them, to listen, to help, to rejoice, and unfortunately, recently, to mourn. He was, of course, also a supportive and loving brother to Joel and Renatia, who, despite the difference, were always so much a part of the Robinsons' lives. And now, all too soon, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided that the time has come to no longer inscribe our Baruch Netanel ben Avram in the Sefer HaChaim, in the Book of Life, which is a terrible blow for our community. But his legacy will continue through the hundreds of Talmidim he taught, the countless friends he cherished, and the generations of the Robinson family that shared his warmth, his love of people, and his devotion to Torah. Susie, I truly wish that there were words that I could share to ease the pain of today, but there aren't. The pain is too deep, and the pain is much too raw. Instead, I pray that together with all of your family and friends, you'll find comfort in knowing that you and Barry made a difference in the lives of so many people. This is evident from the hundreds of people here today, and that we will always be there for you and your entire family. His life, his entire life, was a lesson in living. a lesson that we should all learn as we enter a new year. Bereft of this extraordinary teacher and friend, he set the bar very high, and now it's our responsibility to try to reach up and touch it. And finally, Baruch Netanel Ben Avram, on behalf of everyone here today, I ask your mechila for anything we may have done to hurt you. You were an inspiration to us all. You guided us and taught us. And I pray that we learned well so that our lives will be a zchut, a merit for your life. It's now my privilege to call upon Rabbi Zev.
Very challenging to speak here this morning for a number of reasons. Very painful. I'd like to begin by saying that I had two relationships with Baruch Ben Avram, known as Barry. One began 35 years ago. Not exactly sure, it's 35, 36, 34. Going back a little bit in Chicago time, I know for a lot of people that's not a lot of time. I was at a Karish Bar Mitzvah. First time we were in Skokie. We were in the Purple Hotel for Shabbos. Shabbos morning, went across the street to daven Rabbi Fassman Shul. In the back corner, in those days there was Svarim, and there was a 3-set volume of Yerushalmi. I had been learning at that time with Dr. Jack Fox. And I took out the Yerushalmi and Makis, and I said something to Dr. Fox, to Jack. All of a sudden this man is sitting there, and he interjects and says something about this Yerushalmi. I said to myself, who is this person? I was in the kollel, spent a lot of time on that shir in Makis, and this person just jumped in. And we hit it off immediately. We learned together different shiurim until for the month of Tammuz and Av, he joined the Choshen Mishpat Kollel. I have to say that Choshen Mishpat Kollel is what we learned there is not so easy. Barry came in, you would have thought he was there for 20 years. He held his own with everybody, and more than that. And he learned straight for 3 hours. He was just incredible to behold. But I'd like to say something. At Ar L'Chaim, one of my Rebbeim drove in from Lakewood to Brooklyn, which was fairly unusual in those days. It's a big tzaddik. His name was Rabbi Goldschmidt Zatzal. And he said something which has resonated with me ever since. The most powerful force in the world is Torah. That's the most powerful force in the world. Scientists may not realize it. Universities may not realize it. The most important force in the world is Torah. A friendship that is based on Torah is the most powerful friendship that a person can have. I'm not saying that Starbucks is not fun and doesn't add to a friendship. But a friendship that's based on Torah is an incredible friendship as a whole. That was one relationship. For the last number of years, I always referred to Barry as a Rosh Yeshiva. He had an incredible Simchas HaChaim, unbelievable Simchas HaChaim. As Rabbi just said, Kol Makom and Kol Zman, every place and every time, Barry was smiling. People enjoyed his company. On the block, they were the house to go to. We took a walk, sometimes on Friday night after this. After the Suda, it was to the Robinsons. Just so enjoyable to be there. Leil Seder, he's danced with the Robinsons. First night we go to their house, second night they came to our house. He sang the Shana Bo Yerushalayim. For many years together, 4 generations of Robinsons. When Barry would come into our house, everybody was quiet. Nobody heard what he said. I hesitate to call him Barry. Such an awesome time of Chacham. This morning in Shul, after davening, everybody was in shock. I said to one young person, Are you going to the Levaya? So he said he was my Rabbi. He was my Rabbi. In those days, before the story of Rabbi said over, he was marked that people shouldn't call him Rabbi, should call him Mr. Robinson. He was home last night, he was exhausted. Went to the Robinsons, I came home. So I found the Malden in Parsha Shmini. He asked the Yudu Akashi. Parsha Shmini is dealing with Aaron HaKohen. Aaron HaKohen's first day as a Kohen Gadol. So it said he brought a korban, an egel ben bakar. An egel is a calf. And Rashi mentions Tazal that he brought an egel to act as a kapara for the chet of egel that he was involved. So the Malton wants to know, he was already forgiven for that chet. So what do you have to bring an egel to be forgiven again for the chet? The Malton says an unbelievable answer. He says, even if a person is forgiven for an aveira, when the person becomes greater, the kategor, the prosecutor in Shemayim, demands that he get another kapara, because it's not comparable. A person who does an aveira when he's this big, to a person who does an aveira when he's this big. That's what the prosecutor says in Shemayim. So therefore, he needed another kapara. Malcolm says Hashem didn't really necessitate another kapara. People are forgiven once they're forgiven. Aaron HaKohen, the prosecutor, needed another kapara. I'd like to say that many people, when they're 20 or they're 30, not a conscious decision, many people stop growing in spirituality. You stop growing. They're no longer in yeshiva, they're no longer in seminary, they get busy with life, busy with business, busy with children, and they stop growing. said many times, and not had discussed yet to finish all the Shulchan Aruch, but I can definitely attest that there's no statement in all the Shulchan Aruch that says that a person should stop growing once they finish school. Baruch never stopped growing. He never stopped growing. His Yediyas HaTorah, his knowledge of Torah was incredible. His Amkus HaTorah, his depth of understanding Torah was incredible. His Hashkafas HaTorah, understanding the philosophy of Torah, was incredible. Now many people who grow in those areas, which is remarkable, to grow in those areas when you're 30, when you're 40, when you're 50, when you're 60, when you're 70, and not stop growing, sometimes don't grow in Bein Adam HaChaver. He was incredible in his interpersonal relationships. I know many of his Talmidim here, his biggest nachas, sometimes he even called me, and he would tell me, one of my Talmidim asked a Shaila, what's the answer? As if I knew. And that was not the Talmidim only from the academy. His Talmidim from his Daf Yomi Shir. Not only his Daf Yomi Shir, he gave so many shiurim. And what's there? How in the world do you imagine in your head learning so many things on such a deep level? So I'm wondering, Rabbi said, if a person did Naver and then he became greater, he needs Shuvah, what happens to a person who did a mitzvah and then he became greater? What happens to that person? Mitzvahs grow with him. I have no right to say it. I definitely have a right to imagine it. Baruch was going to Shemayim. What a greeting. What a greeting. A man who taught Daf Yomi cycle twice. A man who has hundreds of Talmidim. Thousands of Talmidim. A man who was beloved, as Rabbi Tanki said, by the entire city. Beloved. Beloved. A man who crossed all different communities within our community. And everybody loved him. Pressing over this morning to show me a video of Barry saying shir, so beautiful. Such simple. Someone printed out one of his poems. I read his poems and his drama in the life when he had symbols on the block with family symbols. Really, should speak for at least a half hour. We'll cover such a Talmud Chacham, but can't. It's going to show. So I like that. I wish I could end the poem. I can't. Baruch, you can be a Melitz Yosef for your mishpacha because you can. You can be a Melitz Yosef for your chaver because you can. You can be a Melitz Yosef for our entire city because you can. One of his favorite stories that he once shared with me, he spent the Shabbos in Baruch. I don't remember why, but the family said. And I believe he ended up davening in Munkach, if I'm not mistaken. And a Yid walked over to the Barry at Baruch Park, the place with Munkach Chassidim, and they saw for sure that something special. He said, "Not a Yid, where do you come from?" He said, "Chicago." "Chicago?" I was looking at Mike. He said, "Come to Chicago, I want to tell you a story." He said, "Ich hab event." I was by the Satmar Rebbe's answer. This is by the Satmar Rebbe's answer. And a Jew from Chicago came in to see the Satmar Rebbe. Now this is old Chicago. For those people who were zeichet to see this Jew. I was never zeichet to see him. When we moved to Chicago, we used to hear about him all the time. By Winchester, that's up. By Winchester, that's up. He was at the Satmar Rebbe. And somebody said to the Satmar Rebbe, "This is Mr. Winchester." So the Satmar Rebbe, He never met him before. And he says to the person, "Das ist nicht ein Mister." This is not a mister. Das ist ein Mister. This is a hidden Jew. The Baruch told his Talmud, "Don't call me Rebbe, call me Mister." I would like to end. This is nicht ein Mister. He was not a mister. He was a mister. Sitkis, in every category that a Jew has to excel, he excels. I'd also like to end by asking from a feeling that we didn't treat the God he deserved. Tried. God's incredible family. Gone through a lot. Baruch made a decision that their rock and leader should be taken away. They said the cause to continue as he would have wanted them to. We in Chicago should live that sympathies and tzlachim, take his lessons and incorporate them in our own lives. Pilon Moaz and Netzach, Mach Hashem Dilon Yalkov.
I'm very sad today. Doubly sad. For a dual-faceted loss. The loss of my father, the greatest ever. And I have a very soft spot in my heart for all around good people. As Rabbi said, I don't think there ever will be anyone like my father ever again. Today's Tzom Gedalia. It's a fast that was dedicated to mourn the loss of a tzaddik that ended an era. And I believe we're doing the same thing today. Just stop for a second and create a mental image of his sweet and pleasant smile. Don't you miss it already? So I was supposed to speak on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. I prepared 2 drashas for before Shofar. As of the first day in the afternoon, I was still undecided which one I would say. Unfortunately, I said neither. I had to rush to the hospital. So I'm going to share with you today the main point of one as my introduction, and the main point of the second as my conclusion. There are a lot of Ramazim why we blow the shofar. One famous one is that it reminds us of weeping. And classically, it's to remind us of the tears we have to have because of our past. give you a present. A Chassam Sofer. Chassam Sofer says a little bit more uplifting. It reminds us of our tears of joy, of Ashreinu Matay Chalkenu. Ashrei ha'am shekachalech. Anu amecha v'ata avinu. And the mashal I was going to use was the way I feel about my father. I thought everyone had a father like my father. But I didn't realize how privileged I was. And says the Chassam Sofer, when one feels this about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it makes one naturally inclined to Mekabel his Malchus. The love and appreciation that I have for my father, I would do anything for it. It's a chayot. The chayot in Paskin is that not only is the rechiv a kibbutz b'ein in action and in speech, one has to think highly of their parents. And my father made it so easy to love and admire him. He was my Rabbi, he was my teacher, my role model, my road trip partner, my coach, and my biggest fan. He was with me every step of the way. Every test, every league game, and even escorting me, taking me to my Fahar Yeshiva. Never in the way, just a constant presence every moment of my life. We, the Robinsons, are not good at expressing our emotions. Until recently, he rarely, if ever, said the words, "I love you." But he didn't need to. His actions and his eyes spoke louder than words. And I highly doubt there's children in the world that are more satiated with their parents' love the way we were with our father and mother's love. He did it for me, for my siblings, the adopted siblings that we had of children in the community that felt more comfortable and less judged in our home than in their own homes. And it was not rare I would wake up on Shabbos morning and see several of my friends eating breakfast at my kitchen table. His Talmidim and all his friends. The Mishnah says in Rosh Hashanah that the entire world are judged k'bnei maram. The Gemara says on Daf Yud Ches, 3 pshatim. Like in Rana, which literally means sheep, like mountain climbers, or like soldiers. Says Rav Chaim Volozhin, this is a remez to the 3 ways we're judged in Rosh Hashanah. The shirish of the word imrana is amar. We're judged in how we speak. Mountain climbers, miyale b'har Hashem v'yakov imper. Are we people that stay and grow? And soldiers is where do we fit into the army of Klal Yisrael? Did we have achdus and did we get a look? If this is the din in Shamayim, then my father is in store for a very little Gan Speech. Could anyone have used their speech in a more appropriate way? A Balkaria, for 55 years, my friends who weren't the starkest at the time would run to hear him do Kriyas HaTorah. He leaned for Moshe Feinstein, and people just loved listening to it. A Bal Tefillah, like Rabbi Tinky mentioned, who they handpicked to take him across the finish line of Ne'ilah on his wings, because they loved and cherished his beautiful voice and felt comfortable that he was the captain for that important kufa of the year. A Maggid Shir and a Madrich, who guided hundreds and hundreds of Talmidim and encouraged them. Not only did he use his speech properly, but he avoided negative speech. In the Hakdama Tereishis Chachma, the Radak has a list of takanas that one should strive to achieve in life. They're all Heilig Inyanim. For example, never speak a word in your life other than Divrei Torah. The next one on the list is Shlo Yoimar Gnai Al Shum Adam. Try to go your whole life without speaking negative about another person. I can testify, for the 40 years I've been on this planet Earth, I've never heard my father say anything negative about anyone or anything. We didn't have to say he doesn't speak Lashon Hara, because not speaking Lashon Hara is you speak negative about things and you avoid speaking Lashon Hara about other people. It wasn't even a habit. Growth. He was a natural youth. What do I mean? It was a given and almost effortless that he learned Torah, that he davened, that he was a mensch, that he sang Zmiris, and had a Simchas Achayim, and loved Yiddishkeit. He had a set Chavrusa for 55 straight years. It's Chavrusa every Dani Azulai, every Shabbos afternoon. And this is the home we were supposed to grow up in. And again, we thought everyone had this. But it wasn't so posh. He was brilliant. He went to high school when he was 12 years old. My Rabbi only took him out of tells because he was ditching class to learn too much. Brilliant both in secular knowledge and entire knowledge. A shtickle Torah that can match the greatest Rosh Yeshiva in the world. And if necessary, it happened a few times. Last minute, he had to sub without preparation, algebra, trigonometry, pre-calculus, AP calculus, advanced AP calculus. He didn't even have to prepare. But the godless was, as the Rambam tells us, there's two ways to Makar HaKadosh Baruch Hu. One is through Torah, and one is through Teva. Rabbi Ma'asecha Hashem. And my father's godless in secular knowledge and in science and in math is he saw the beauty of it. I still remember sitting with him on a park bench and he was pointing out the neflos of Baruch in a flower. Because this is the way that he spoke and this is the way that he saw the world. And the godless was, as brilliant as he was, he's the greatest Baal Hezbollah. He was so clear. The greatest teacher you could ever listen to. Rav Chaim Brisker famously said, Felton Hezber is Felton Havana. If you can't explain something clearly, it means you don't understand it clearly. And he can make the most complicated concepts in the world seem so elementary because of his deep grasp of it. But he kept on steiging. He kept on steiging. He started giving daf, one of the biggest in the city. They became a chevra and they finished twice. He started minyanim at our Torah in his building. And then he started giving the share in the academy. But he was a totally different kind of Rebbe. Most classrooms are battle zones, where the teachers have to engage in all kinds of shtick to get the children to listen. And they have to bounce around the room and be fascinating and interesting and do all kinds of games. My father sat in his chair and they hung off every last word that came out of his mouth. He never judged a single Talmud and he believed in everything that could be squeezed out of them. And when the previous teachers from the year before were given their notes so he could get a clue what kind of Talmidim he has, he would tell them, it makes no difference what happened in your classroom. I'll be okay. I don't need to hear your negative thoughts about them. I'll take care of them. Community shiurim and emunah. We thought that we were out of this. My father was diagnosed a couple years ago with a serious illness. And by the end of last year, we thought we were in the clear. He was the Sandik by my son's bris, Baruch Hashem. And that week he went to the hospital and we found out that the old machla came back and another serious one came along with it. And we were devastated. We can't do this again. And again, effortless. Kobe, this is what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants. And it's going to be okay. Pasha. So he spoke beautifully, he steigt, and he got along with everybody. It wasn't easy growing up that your friends came to your house to spend time with your father and not with you. So pleasant and non-judgmental. His Rebbe was Rav Mendel Kaplan Zechariah Levaya. There's an outscroll biography written about Rav Mendel, and in the Shar page they have a medrash. And the medrash is about Esther Hamalka, how she was not Mageddis, Maladato, she didn't say which nation she came from, but what happened was that every nation took her and said, she belongs to us. They all felt a connection to her. And the biographer of Mendel said, everyone felt that way about Mendel. And when I read this already 25 years ago, I put it on file. Because this is how everybody feels about my father. Every circle, every school in the city, every kollel in the city, every yeshiva in the city, every organization in the city. He fit in. They wanted him to be a part of it. Because he got along with everyone. But his hallmark was, and we all know it, is they made people happy. Arguably the best storyteller, poem and songwriter, and joke deliverer in history. Gemara says in Tainus, there a broker went into the shuk and asked Eliyahu Navi, who hears the Ben Olam Haba? And he pointed to a jester. And he said, him. And he ran over and said, what's your schus? And he says, I make other people happy. As Rashi says, Sameach and Samech b'nei Adam. This is my father. I'm extremely tempted to share some of his jokes. They're classics. I don't think it's appropriate at the time. But I'll share with you one poem that he wrote to his Daf Yomi Shir a month ago. And I'll give you a taste of who he was. Because this was just an average email. Nothing special. Dear Rabotai, yes, the rumors are true. We are actually almost finished with Zvachim for another 7 1/3 years. The plan is to get almost to the end of Zvachim on Sunday, and then have the same on Monday. If time permits, we may actually start Menachos on Sunday. So for Monday, tell your Banim and Banais, no more animal korbanos. No more birdies, no more pars, no more sprinkling blood from jars. No malicha or shchita, from now on we'll be eating pita. Flour and oil and maybe wine, but no more steak on which to dine. So bring your herring, bring your cheese, menachos ought to be a breeze. Bring your schnapps and maybe pizza, because we may not eat from the kmitza. See you on Monday in Yirtzeh Hashem, we'll start menachos all over again. A few thank yous. I thank my mother. For being my father's partner in this journey. For being the kollel wife that you were. I become mentioned who was in the Chesed Mishpah kollel. It's only because of her. She kicked them out of the house and said, go learn. And his teaching, and his daf yomi, and making kolos for them, and supporting them. Everything you heard today is only because of her. I want to thank Rabbi Matenki for twisting my father's arm to teach in the academy, and being so patient with him during his illness. I openly know it's because he knew that even if my father is handicapped in his ability to teach, my father at 50% is still better than most other teachers. But ultimately, it was not simple to allow him to keep his job. And we're eternally thankful for that, because that was his source of peace. I also want to thank my non-biological father, Elliot Robinson, and all the drivers and everyone involved in Daf Yomi for making that shir happen. I'd like to end with a couple of things. To his Talmidim from Daf Yomi, please stay strong and continue learning Lilul Shmasai. I know that one of the main reasons you came was not just the daf, it was to spend time with him. But please allow his memory to still encourage you to go every single day. And to all his Talmidim from the academy, Sasha Yeshna Pai, Sasha Hinena Pai, please spread the word. As much as you loved him, he loved you. He thought about you, he had shilas about you, and all he wanted to do was to form you into B'nai Torah with a love of Yiddishkeit. Nothing made him happier than seeing a former Talmud, Stein, in Eretz Yisrael become B'nai Torah, and nothing hurt him more than the opposite would happen. So you should just know that every mitzvah you do and every aliyah that you make is a schus for him in Gan Eden. So please carry that out price and do what you can on his behalf. On behalf of my siblings who will not be speaking, so I'm asking mechila for my father. If we ever not mechabed him properly, or ever pagay in his kavod, so in sum total, this humble man, by just doing what's right, day in and day out, for 73 years, he ended up with a beautiful family, several hundred Talmidim, thousands of friends and admirers, completing Shas, countless smiles generated. One amazing legacy. The second drush I didn't get to give. I was going to make a connection between the Tekiya Gedolah and the Tekah B'Shefer Gadol L'Chei V'Seim, and speak how through our schusim and through our growth throughout the year, we're trying to ma'ir ourselves to earn that Shefer below from HaKadosh Baruch. The last mitzvah my father performed was listening to Tekiya Shofar. Alan Ray came from Ortaya to blow Shofar from him. He heard, he said, "Amen to the brachos," and he was unconscious 15 minutes later. I was the mocker for those tekiyos. And when I read off the words, Tekiya Gedolah, I wanted to hear Hashem Shofar. But it didn't come. I couldn't help but think the words of the Kedushas lady, that he would beseech HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Rosh Hashanah. Hashem, you say to blow the shofar 9 times. And every kehillah around the world, for hundreds and hundreds of years, has blown 100. Can you just give us one? We all be like that. Try to be a little bit like my father. To be sweet people. To be good people. And to grow. Take care of our families. If we can't learn from him, we'll be zeicha to that shofar blow that will usher in the time of Bola HaMavos LaNetzach. Malach Hashem Elokim Yimei.
think of who should be up here speaking, and who should be sharing inspirational words, and who should be sharing the Torah, who should be menachem us, who should be consoling us, who should be cheering us up at him. And it's well known that my father did not want, he never was commanded us, but he always said that my Zadie didn't want him to be mas with him, and he didn't feel, it wasn't something that he was so into, but he deserved the cover, so I have to try to do my best. I don't think I ever met a person in my entire life who didn't have one enemy. Who didn't have one person who even had a tiny enemy. Everybody loved him. Everybody wanted to be his friend. Everybody wanted to be in close proximity to him, no matter what they had to do so. I remember when I was zeicha, although I didn't appreciate it at the time, I was zeicha to be in the shir. And I would walk the hallways, and it was evident that my father was much more popular than I was. That my friends would say to me, "Can you help me get into your dad's shir?" And I said, "I don't really have any pull. Can you just put in a good word for me?" He was never, ever in a bad mood. I can honestly say I don't remember him ever being in a bad mood. And about a month ago or so, when he called me, I was standing in a field, and I was reffing a football game, and I get a phone call from my father, and he says, "It's not good." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, it's back." So I said, "Tata, why?" So he always used to call me Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Yoshua, Rebbe Shazay. We don't talk about that. Why? Who asked why? The Baruch wants it to be this way, it's meant to be this way. And then he said to me, and the truth is, I shouldn't have said it's not good, because it is good. He was the smartest person I had ever met in my entire life. I remember when I was living in Toronto, I was saying a chabur, Maseches Erevin. And as was my minhag, anytime I said a chabur, I called him the night before, which was a very risky thing to do. Because after hours and hours of preparation, he could slug up the whole thing. So one time I was saying chabur, Maseches Erevin, and he says, "Rabbi Yoshua, you forgot the Gemara in Tamur." I said, "Ta, I didn't know there was a Gemara in Tamur." He said, "Rabbi Yoshua, what are you going to do with the Gemara?" I said, "I don't know." He says, "Well, let's learn it together." It was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was sitting in my basement in Toronto, and he was sitting in Chicago, and I opened up a Maseches Tamur and we learned for an hour. And I said, "Ta, I don't know what to say. What am I going to say tomorrow?" He says, "Not sure." I said, "Why?" He said, "The chabur just got a little longer, that's all." I said, "But I don't have a teretz." He said, "We have teretzim for every question in life." So yeah, with the kasha, it's a big deal. And the next day I said the chabur, and I quoted the Gemara in Arabic, and I should have quoted my father, but I didn't. And the Yimelite said to me, "How did you move the Gemara in Torah?" So I said, "I have to be honest, I didn't know the Gemara in Torah. My dad didn't know." "Your father knew the Gemara in Torah." So my father knew everything. My father knew science. My wife and I talk about it anytime we have a question, anything, in learning, whether it be Shas, Tanakh, a Medrash, Mishnayos, science, math. Every time I had to write a poem, I called my father. Last year, when I ended the year, I tried unsuccessfully to write a poem for my shir. Because I wanted to be like my father. And it was a complete disaster. And I said, how do you do it? He said, I don't know. I said, can you help me? So he says, sure. He says, tell me all these things, A, B, B, C, A, this, and that. I'm just going to go to the Brahmin, and no. Yeah, just do that. That's what I did. But not only did he love knowledge, he loved to share knowledge. We all know people who love the fact that they're smarter than everybody else. They love the fact that they know things that no one else knows. And they want to keep it that way. He was ready and willing to share all of his knowledge with anyone at any time, no matter what. He loved to teach. He loved to teach anything, but he especially loved to teach Torah. When there was a question, not a question, but there was a discussion that perhaps maybe my father should stop giving the daf yomi, that shiloh lasted about 10 seconds. And when it was mentioned to him, maybe he should stop giving, he said, that is my chiyus. That's my chiyus. I love to teach Torah. Ad kedei kach, that when my father was in pain, and he was uncomfortable, he wasn't feeling well towards the end of his life, he said to me, when I say shir, Rabbi Yeshua, I don't feel any pain whatsoever. That's how much you love to teach Torah. And even though he loved to teach Torah so much, he was willing to sacrifice it all for me. I'm going to share with you a story that I've never shared before. I don't know if anyone knows this story. And I was kind of, as my brother said, keep it in my pocket for a time, but I have to share it. I was 16 years old, and I was in camp. And as was the minhag back then, I never ever spoke to my parents when I was in camp. I never called, I never wrote, it's just what I did. So one day I get a call on the loudspeaker, summoning me to the office, Levaya. So I go to I thought I was in trouble, but they tell me my father's on the phone, he wants to speak to me. So I immediately think that somebody had done it. Because what else could he possibly want from me? When the minhag is, you don't speak to someone, because you don't love each other, because that's just the minhag. So I pick up the phone and I said, is everything okay? He said, yeah. He says, I have a question for you. I said, yeah. He said, are you friendly with the boys that are a year older than you? I said, yeah, I am. He said, would it make you uncomfortable if I'm their Rabbi? I said, I need to think about that for a second. And he said, because if it does, I won't teach. And it's funny, at the time I didn't think that was a big deal. Because I was a kid, I was a teenager, and I didn't understand what it means to teach. And I understand, I never appreciated his love for teaching because he had never done it at that point in his life yet. He had done it, but not in a formal classroom. But looking back now, when the very same man who said that when I'm teaching, I don't feel any pain, and he would never give up his daf yomi, even in the worst state, because that's his chiyus, was willing to give it all up, because he didn't want me to feel uncomfortable. That was my father. My father was a sulam mutzav arza b'reisha magil l'shamayim. He was a ladder that was firmly implanted in this ground, in this earth. He knew everything about this world. He knew it from a scientific perspective. He knew it from a psychological perspective. He knew everything. But his head was in the clouds. He spanned the entire ladder. He could talk to anybody. He could could converse with the biggest academics, professors. He could speak to the biggest Rosh Yeshivas. And he could speak to the littlest kleine kindlach. He was everywhere. He was down here, and he spanned all the way up to Shemaim. I remember that every Yom Tov, when he would come to me towards the end, when they would come to my house in New York for Yom Tov, the biggest thrill for my children was that after the Suda, we sit down with Zaidi, they would flank him, one on each lap, and then two over his shoulders, and he would read them the stories of Cham for hours. And I would have to put them to sleep. I said, Dad, they gotta go to bed. I said, no, one more story. Please, Tati, can Zaidi tell us one more story? Okay, fine. They would stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning, sharing stories about the people from Cham. When I think of my father, I think of a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, "Hu hayomer kol sheruach habriyos neichei imenu." Anyone whom the Briyas people love, they feel close to, they're endeared by him. Ruach hamokoy neichei imenu means Hashem loves him as well. It says Rashi, "Kol mishu ohu lamata." Anyone who is beloved down here, biyadua shu ohu lamata. Knowing he must be beloved upstairs. When I was davening on Rosh Hashanah for my father, and I davened a lot, I kept thinking about a shmooze that I always give to my shir every single year before Rosh Hashanah. I tell them the famous concept from Rabbi Salander that if you want to be zoich in the din, if you want to win the din turn and on Rosh Hashanah, be a person who the tzibur needs. Be someone who is oisei b'tzarech tzibur, because then Hashem can't rip him away from the tzibur. The koyach tzibur will save him. And I tell the Baruch every single year the same thing. I knew she was like, guys, you're oisei b'tzarech tzibur yid, and you have to be victorious. So I was davening to Rebbeinu Shalom. I said, Rebbeinu Shalom, we're supposed to daven for covered of your malchus, of you. We're anointing you as king. Who brings more covenant to you than my father? Who is Isaac in Tzarech Tzibur more than him? How many shiur, how many classes, how many people need him or came in contact with him every single day? He has to be Zayich in the din. So eventually he has to be Zayich in the din. And then I get the phone call, Moitzi Rosh Hashanah, that he was not Zayich in the din. But I held my svar with such a good svar. Does it make sense? So I started to think to myself. The very well-known question asked, it says that on Rosh Hashanah there are 3 svarim. The Sefer Chaim, the Sefer of Life, the Sefer Mason, the Sefer of the ones who are decreed to death, and the Sefer of the Beginning. And many ask, why does it have to be that there are 2 books? Why do you need a Sefer Chaim and Sefer Moses? Just have, if you're not reading the Sefer Chaim and Mela, you're not alive. So the Sefer Moses say, no, because a person can be alive and not read the life. But I thought maybe you could say a different point. There are people who are not going to get life, but they're not going to die either. They're not dying because of their avodas. What do I mean? I have a picture in my head that when every single yid, every single person in the world is going in front of the Baruch to be judged, like the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah says. When the Baruch got to my father, he said, I need him back. I need a daf teacher. I need a chaversa. I need the most delicious, beloved person back. It's not because of the evidence. But the Rebbeinu said, I gave you a matana. I gave this world a matana. But I need him back because I love him and I miss him, and I want his neshama close to me. Because it's such a delicious neshama. Everybody loved him. Everybody wanted to be around him. It must be that he's Ahal B'Mayla. Perhaps there are people that the version just needs, for whatever reason. So, I want to finish off by, first of all, I want to thank my mother, that I can't say that my brother, but everything that was his is yours. And you facilitated everything that he is. And I don't think there's any way we could ever express that and really show you the appreciation for that. Even when you served him in Malav Malka, it wasn't just a piece of fish, the little garnish, the folded napkin, the placemat. You treat him like a melech, and that's what gave him the koiches and the confidence to do what he did. I want to ask him a chiyah. There are many things I could ask him a chiyah for, and I feel terrible, but I hope he can forgive me. And I just want to say that we're going to miss him. I'm going to miss him. My family's going to miss him. My siblings, my mother, his Talmidim, his Daf Yomi Shir, all of his friends are going to miss him. But Vice the Chayes the Beresh will miss them more. And it was his time. It was his time for his beautiful, delicious neshama to go off to Shemayim. Yilam Avos Lanetzach, Mocha Hashem Elokim B'Nei Al Kol.